Hi, folks. This is Don Meisner with the North Country Fishing Report. You know, I want to talk about if you're fishing, and here's what I'm doing. I'm passing on my lifetime of experience. But I thought of something that I think you might be interested in, and I think perhaps it might help you. And that is, do I fish steady or do I fish erratic? And I think back to all the times fishing for trout in the mountain lakes and in it's places like that where we're using a fly rod and a sinking fly line. And don't leave me now because I'm not going to be talking about fly fishing. But as you're trolling along with either paddles or an oar or something like that, and we would be using flies or streamers on a sinking fly line. And so my buddy, and it was usually John Clark, he would steady as she goes, steady as she goes. And for me, I was always jerking the end of the line. So I'm making that streamer dart or pause and then go and pause and then go. And we would think that would be the best. And sometimes it was. Sometimes I catch a lot more fish. And other times it was John catching the fish. Now, we're right together. One has a rod on one side of the boat and one on the other. And he would just be steady. And here's what it tells me, and here's what I think you should know. That sometimes fish are far more reactive to something going by them steadily, not moving, like a fish would normally swim. And there's going to be other times where they wouldn't even look at that steady motion. It wouldn't catch their eye, whereas something jerking and jolting and doing that in the water may look injured, may be something they'd want to hit. And I talked about this before on another report a few weeks ago, and I talked about crappies often are far more reactive to something going steadily by them as opposed to something stopping and starting and jerking and darting. And I think it's something to be aware of. And I tend to be one-dimensional. I tend, just from years and years of habit of keeping that motion I'm always sort of jerking the end of my hand there, making that rod tip go in different directions and keeping that bait in constant changing of direction. Sometimes that works wonderful, but I know there are times that I'm missing the boat, that I'm not doing it right, and that a steady retrieve can be more effective. I remember another time I was fishing with Jonathan Robela, who was one of our best fishermen in this area, and we were doing a TV show, and he had his father out with us, and another time we did another show with his grandfather. But this time that we were fishing with his father, he sort of smiled at me because he knew we were where there were real big smallmouth bass in the St. Lawrence River. And he said, "Here, I want you to put this on." And it was a little marabou jig. Just a little one, not more than 2 inches long at the most. And he says, "But here's what I want to tell you. Don't fish it like you're used to fishing jigs. It's a jig, but you don't jig it. Just reel it steadily back." And I thought, geez, you don't do that with a jig. I'll never catch a fish. As it turned out, we caught some huge smallmouth bass doing just that. And if we'd been jigging it, I don't think we got a strike. So it's something to remember. You have a choice, but maybe you should alternate those choices and sometimes start trying the way you feel most comfortable with, either steadily reeling back or changing the motion and speed. And if that doesn't work, whichever one it is, do the opposite thing. And that might make a difference. Until next time, folks, this is Don Meisner with the North Country Fishing Report.